Okay, property, week 5. So today we're going to be looking at a possession case that we didn't look at last week, and then moving on to joint finders, intention, and an exam question we went through, as well as inclusive versus fair solutions to disputes. Great. So the Cowell and Ellis case, this is a case where the plaintiff found a pump on the defendant's land and it was worth $450. The defendant didn't know it was there. The land was quite large, and simply because it was on his land he claimed ownership, and so this is a finder-occupier case. So the analysis is, it is easy to distinguish many of the finder's cases because this was an unattached chattel on private property, so it's different than, say, Ewells and Briggs, where there was a boat under the land, or it's another attached chattel case. Anyway, so the common principles are a bit ambiguous for unattached chattels. The general rule, though, is that the finder has a better right than all but the true owner. How can you establish who the owner is? Well, if it's attached, we can look at South Staffordshire, where the rings under the mud were attached, and they were the property of the kind of de facto owner at the time. And in Appleyard there was a safe which was considered to be attached or deliberately placed there. Or in Hibbert McKiernan, the property that was found would already belong to the person that was a party in the case. So in this case it was golf balls. I have here that the best argument is Reg Row, but that's not the case. Reg Row is also a case of attached chattels, though you could say they were unattached. I guess it would be the best argument possible for the landowner, because the bars were underwater. It could be argued that they were unattached. They were on top of the land, though underwater. Anyway, the decision here was for the finder, and the general rule is an important one, meaning that the finder has the greatest right over all others but the true owner, and if you can't establish that you're the true owner, then you don't have a better right than the finder, even if that object is found on your land. So there are limits to manifest intention that we'll go through soon. But just because it's on your land and just because it's unattached doesn't necessarily mean that it belongs to you. In 1977 anyway. Great, so on to joint finders cases. Karen Cashman, there were 5 boys walking along the train tracks. The youngest boy found a sock, and now there's a conflict in the facts as to whether he was examining it to see if it was valuable when another boy grabbed it away from him, or if they just started to play with it. Anyway, when the sock broke open and revealed $775, it was, they were all kind of playing with it as a joint plaything. And this was an important fact for the judge. He said that there can be no intention, so no mens reis to help establish possessory rights without knowledge of what the item was. And so when that knowledge became or when they were able to get that knowledge that it was valuable, it was in common possession. He does distinguish, though, that there are cases where if you find something and you assume it's valuable and you're in the process of gathering the knowledge to determine if it's valuable, you can have the intention to exclude. So the decision here was the money was divided equally between the boys. And the rules are that there can't be intention to exclude without knowledge. Trying to attain the knowledge to decide whether to exclude can be seen as an intention to exclude. And also, intention increases as knowledge increases. So the more you know, I guess that's the other way around. well, as knowledge increases, intention increases, can increase. Such as the Jubantia, where it was decided that in one part of the case, or one consideration in the case, was they knew a lot more about the ship, so they had more of an ability to intend to exclude others. So Edmonds and Ranella, this is cash in an envelope in the parking lot. A 9-year-old and a 12-year-old are playing in a parking lot coming from church, rummaging around through the trash. They find an envelope with over $12,000 in it. And then a 15-year-old girl comes to their assistance. Whether they called her or whether she just showed up, it's unclear. They all went to her house. Her parents called the police, and the police gave the girl a receipt as sole finder, and the boys are saying, hold on, that's our money. So this is between the boys and the girls. The owner of the land is not a party of the case, and if they were, they could win if they could establish that perhaps the money was theirs to begin with, not simply that it was theirs because it was on their land. So did the boys establish a possessory right prior to the girls' assistance? Well, they had a clear actus reus. They found it and they removed it from the trash. The mens reus is a little unclear, though. The judge questioned whether a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old could formulate the intention to exclude others. And if they asked for assistance, perhaps it was to determine whether they should exclude others or whether they should just give it away. So what part did the girl play? She brought the cash to her parents and ultimately the police. And the policy reason for rewarding finders is with possessory rights is so that they will return it. Because if they do return it, then, or if they do try to find the true owner, and the true owner isn't found, then it goes back to them because of those possessory rights that they get for finding it and turning it into the police ultimately. So in this case, it was decided to split the money 3 ways, and rules here are possessory rights aren't established, or possessory rights weren't established until the cash left the parking lot. That was when the 3 parties, I guess that would be a combination of their clear act and their intention to exclude. And yeah, those rules are actually part of the decision anyway. So inclusive versus fair solutions. So we see here in joint finders, it's pretty easy to just split the money. So when we have a case of finder versus occupier, wouldn't the 50-50 split be an inclusive rather than a fair decision? I suppose it would be inclusive and fair as opposed to simply a fair solution. And there are advantages here. There's certainty and expectation, which follows the order principle. There's less money spent on litigation, and according to the judicial system, order is better than fairness and the cost of legal proceedings. So there are disadvantages, though. If a person is on